track again. So we sort of broke up the day with the panels and the companies presenting. So we're going to switch tracks around. And Israel has been doing this for 20 years and doing it really well. So we figured having a panel with Israel and India would actually make a lot of sense. So the panelists here, so I'm going to introduce Priya Tandon. She's been working with Israel for 22 years. She is the founder and president of Indus Setu Global. So she has spent more time in Israel. She's probably an Indian with an Israeli body. And her co-panelist, Oded Harmoni, is Israeli, but he's more Indian than I can imagine. So I think this is the perfect blend of Israel and India. And I'll let Priya come in and introduce the panelists.
Hello, so it's great to be here. And I would have the pleasure of introducing Elon and Oded. So could you please tell something about yourself to the audience? Thank you.
So we will start probably with a short presentation, but about myself. I'm an Israeli-American investor. I'm a partner at Road Ventures. I'm also a charter member at TiE. Very proud of it. I believe a lot in this triangle of India, Israel, and Silicon Valley. And also, in the past, I was the head of the Israeli high-tech industry in VC Association, so I see a bit from that perspective.
Hi, everyone. My name is Elon Girmonsky. I'm an entrepreneur, an Israeli entrepreneur. Until recently, I was the founder and CEO of an Israeli-based company named BlazeMeter that was recently acquired by CA Technologies. And I feel privileged to speak in front of this audience today.
Thank you.
So those of you who doesn't know Israel, Israel is one of the smallest countries in the world. Though it's very, very small. I don't know how many of you read Startup Nation? It's the best propaganda book since the Bible, so you should read it. So as you see, Israel has the highest density of startup companies in the world, even more than Silicon Valley. And when we talk about Israel, we talk about the whole ecosystem. So it's very similar to Silicon Valley, but we have another secret sauce, which is the Israeli army, where most of the startups come from specific intelligence, technological intelligence units. So we have them grouped together. Israel has a very strong academic skills. Just like here we have Stanford, so Israel has the Technion, we have the Hebrew University, Tel Aviv University, all ranked in the 100 best academies in the world, in Shanghai. We have a very strong serial entrepreneurship group of entrepreneurs. I think Alon, you also had a company before that you saw. They want to have, after they sell the first company, they're not buying the yacht and go to 2 trips around the world. They are starting the second company, and this time they want to make it $1 billion company. And we have a very strong funding environment. Israel has, in the past 40 years, has funds like Sequoia, Benchmark, Accel, and those top-tier funds in Silicon Valley that are operating in Israel. One of the strengths of Israel is that for over 40 years, Israel attracted global R&D, global corporates to open R&D centers in Israel. We have currently around 300. The last one was NVIDIA. But you can see all the big names. Apple has one of the biggest facilities outside of the US, Facebook, Google, Samsung, and others. Intel is having a strategic activity in Israel. Some of the most innovative chips that are designed and manufactured in Israel by Intel. Some about the M&A activity. So Israel has a lot of M&A activity, though the size of the deals is not so big. It's ranging between $50 to $100 million. We've seen several $1 billion exit in the past years. One of them was a Chinese acquisition of $4.4 billion earlier this year. We had Waze, that is an Israeli company that was acquired by Google for $1 billion. We had an IPO that I was a bit involved of Mobileye that was 12 billion. So in general, we do have these unicorns, but at the same time, the size of the deals is a bit smaller. And because Manu told me that there are people here from the government of India, so part of the reason Israel is so strong, and maybe India can learn from, is what are the incentives and how the government is encouraging this activity of foreign corporates to be active in Israel. I just leave this over here because we have a very short time to have our panel. Okay? Thank you.
Entrepreneurs, and we talk about Silicon Valley, we talk about the diaspora. One cannot but think about how well placed and how well the Israeli, the Jewish diaspora has been for the startups, companies in Israel. They leverage their contacts in any way that they can for the startups coming to USA, and that plays an important role in its success. So what can the Indian diaspora learn from the Jewish, Israeli diaspora, which plays such an important role in making a startup successful?
So I would say that we can learn from India as well. I mean, TiE is an amazing organization. Israel, so, you know, not all Jewish people are Israelis, and most of the Israelis are Jewish.
That's right.
So
yes.
here in Silicon Valley, we have a very strong community of Israelis and also of Jewish. The Israeli community has established a few organizations in the past years. Unlike the Indians that are all under one umbrella of TiE, we can't work in one umbrella, so we have 4 or 5 organizations separated. But they all try to do the same and help either the community over in here or the community of the Israeli startups and corporates that come from Israel. One is ICON, the other is IEFF, Tech Aviv, J-Angels, there are a few of them, CACC. And it's a very active community. One of the goals is when an Israeli company comes here, well, there's no something like an Israeli company, right? Because we don't have a domestic market. So those companies that are being formed in Israel must look for a foreign market. So they come here. This is the natural first market. So when we talk about an Israeli company, it's usually an R&D center in Israel and a headquarters in Silicon Valley. And the main influence that we have is opening the doors, is having a network effect for those companies. When they arrive here, we let them sit in a space, then we open for them our network, our connections, and try to help them to understand where there's a cultural gap, how to bridge it, and also how to find the relevant partners, investors, and even employees within this network.
Absolutely, and that plays an important role.
I think to complement what Oded said, as an entrepreneur from my own experience relocating to the Valley 3 years ago, I can say that relocating from one culture to a different culture is a very lonely position. And the one thing that can help, or I think it's critical, is to rely on the support of the network. And I've been, a large consumer of the Israeli network. So I think that, one important key to success is having that network and being able to support it. On the other side is, I think both Oded and myself are working with many people that originated from India, and we see an amazing network within the Indian community. So we can say this is awesome, right? And I think that an Indian entrepreneur can definitely enjoy the network that exists in the US from India.
When I came first to Silicon Valley, one of the things that surprised me is to see the whole value chain in some companies are Indians, Indians, Americans. When you get to, just let's say Google, you get to Google and meet 5 out of the 6 people that you will meet probably are from India.
Of Indian origin.
Amazing. So this power, we need to learn from the Indian community. I agree with that.
In fact, absolutely. And when we were having a conversation with then Alon, you were mentioning about the presence in Silicon Valley or in USA. Plays a very important role for a startup company. So can you explain a bit more about that?
So Alon probably will be better just to tell one thing, because the question is always, if you want to be acquired, if you want to be a leader,
Right.
you need to be in Silicon Valley. I think this is something that all of us share. You can't be a global leader if you're in a domestic market. We encourage my portfolio companies and as a community, we always encourage the Israeli entrepreneur to come to Silicon Valley and to establish here, because when you're here, it's much easier to have this kind of relationship with the corporates, with the investor. And it's very hard if you're not here to become number one in your area.
So I think that any company in a region different than the US needs to ask themselves very strong question. Why do I need to relocate? Because prices are outrageously high, right? Communication, if you have two offices, like my company, we had an office in Tel Aviv, we still have an office in Tel Aviv, an office in the Bay Area, the communication is extremely tough, right? Building the network, injecting yourself into a culture, this is a very strong challenge. So you need to have very strong reasons to do this move. So one of the reasons, as kind of, there is an underlying question. What do you need to do to get to a successful exit? So I think what kind of Oded touched is that to get to a successful exit, you have at least two options, to search for it or for it to come and find you. So, a sentence I have heard in the past and I'm constantly using is that companies do not get sold, they get acquired. Right? There is a very strong difference between the two. If you want to get acquired, companies that acquire the leaders only, right? So you need to be the leader. You need to become number one. You need to become number one in a certain market. So for us, the market was North America, right? So one reason to do this move is you want to be the leader. You want to be the leader in your market. So guess what? The person who leads the vision holder needs to be in the market. Another kind of, so this is one aspect of things. The second aspect of thing, I truly believe that if you sell and market to a certain region, you have to be there, because at the end of the day, we buy from people that are similar to ourselves, right? That we can develop a conversation, a relationship. So again, I found it extremely difficult to market and sell to the US from Israel. Things changed significantly once the operation was here.
And you also mentioned, thank you, that even in the presence, you should have a certain type of layer of the officers present in America, which is also important, plays an important role.
Yeah, so I kind of mentioned earlier that there's the Bay Area, and there is the US.
Right.
And these are not the same. So for example, again, the Bay Area is highly competitive, recruiting is difficult, extremely expensive. Again, so you need to have certain reason. But unicorns are being formed in the Bay Area, things happen here, timeline is compressed in the Bay Area. So, again, the person who's holding the vision, and if you want to assume leadership, you need to be at the heart of everything. But sales and marketing, it should be part of the same culture of the market. These do not need to be, in my view, need to be in the extremely high cost environment. So, building a business, and this is very important because you move by yourself and you think, hey, I can stay alone for a while, but then you start hiring and hiring. Building an organization in the US, again, there is certain logic to be at the center of everything, and or in the wider US area, which is kind of a different economics.
I will add for this. I think that the startups that are in this room, when you think about moving to Silicon Valley, it's a challenge. I really think, It's where I think what Alon said is that you need to figure out if this is where you need to be. But if you need to be, it's still challenging because you have a time difference, and you need to cultural difference, and the cost is really making it much harder for those companies to move in. There's a certain amount of money that you need to raise in order to move to Silicon Valley, which you couldn't do without. If you don't have like $3 million, probably you shouldn't go to Silicon Valley because you get stuck that you can't hire people, you can't afford yourself here. So you need to be aware of the cost that Silicon Valley is demanding these days. And ask yourself if this is the right place for you to be, for your specific industry, specific stage.
So one last question. There are no secret sauces per se, but what is it that you think that the Indian startups and companies should be doing to be more attractive and to be more successful in US?
I think, well, first of all, it's a mindset. Mindset means that when you look at your market, when you look at who you are, and you say, I'm a domestic company, I want to be very strong in my domain, or I want to be a global company that will lead this space and be number one. And when you change this mindset, you start to think different. You start to recruit people that are not the easiest one that you find. You recruit the people that are best for your company. It will be different product, different sales, different marketing, different. The whole build-up of the company will be different. So the limits, the sky is the limit in Silicon Valley. I think there's more limits in different places in the world. And I think it's mostly a mindset. And learning from Silicon Valley. Meet with, take your time when you are here, just meet as many people that you can, because getting the feedback of what you are doing, sometimes we had those conversations with Israeli companies coming to Silicon Valley, and some of them think that they are perfectly suitable for Silicon Valley, and they're not. They're not in the right industry, they're not in the right stage. They're not having the right benchmark in order to raise money in Silicon Valley. So sometimes when you speak with them and explain it to them, they come back to Israel and say, okay, you know what, we thought about it. We'll take our time. Maybe we should go to New York. Maybe we should go to Europe. Maybe we should go to India. So I think it's also important to have feedback from people that can give you it.
So the feedback and marketing aggressively plays an important role as well.
I think the market fit is the biggest question. If you have a bigger market fit in the US, you should aim to the US. And market fit is also where you can expand also in terms of funding.
Right.
So Silicon Valley, it's easier to find the right funding, you can find the right talents to help you. So, but it's specific about Silicon.
Right, right.
So again, to add, I think that what needs to be done in order to be more successful, first we need to think, is it possible? Is there an opportunity to disrupt a certain market? So I would claim, I think that Israel and India are very close in that sense that there is an amazing opportunity bringing technology and building companies from outside of the US into the US because of the cost structure, because of the assertiveness, right? So
we're not putting the elections right.
Not just yet.
Putting this aside.
It's coming.
Besides that.
I think there is an amazing opportunity. I think that to compete here, you know, India needs to understand that entrepreneurs coming from India here, they need a lot of support, a lot of help. You heard earlier a very short presentation of an extremely successful Indian company, Brown & Stack. Right? Their competitors raised $100 million to date. Right? They are killing them. Right? I'm not sure they are aware of it. But you know, a bootstrap company versus a company that raised $100 million, it's not you know, apples to apples. So you know, to be successful, in my eyes, it goes back to the network. It goes back to the support tier. If entrepreneurs coming here receive the support and the network, they can compete because there is room for a major disruption.
So the Indian diaspora, like the Israeli Jewish diaspora, can play a very important role in leveraging their contacts for companies which come from India, for acquisition, for exit. So at the end of the day, the Indian diaspora is hugely responsible and can play this role of mentoring and supporting companies which are coming to US, right? Like which is exactly what they do, the Israelis and the Jewish communities and the diaspora. So on that note, thank you so much, Shalon, and it's been a pleasure sitting here. And I hope you'll be traveling to Israel together very soon on a business delegation. So thank you so much. And we are on time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.